right. Hello and welcome to the Dig Sideline Podcast. This is episode 11. My name is Patrick Alonia.
And I am Sam DeCosmo.
Sam, hey, big game coming up here against the Eagles at home, a noon o'clock game.
Big game, week 6 of the NFL.
Yes, sir.
Both teams are 3-2.
Yeah, 3-2. This is gonna be one that's gonna define the season, I think.
Exactly, I think so. This is, well, I'll touch on it later, but I really think that this is the game where if we can win, it'll prove that we belong in the top tier of teams.
I agree, yeah. And the Eagles are a great team, and they beat up on the Packers. That was a fun one to watch.
That was a fun one to watch.
This is gonna be a good test.
You know, it was not a fun one to watch. Was the Eagles-Jets game. That was so bad.
That was awful.
I started watching it. I started watching the Eagles-Jets game to kind of get a beat on just for the podcast,
right?
So we could talk about them. And it was so bad I had to turn it off.
Yeah, that's really not worth watching. That's a box score, check in on the game cast, see what the depth chart or what the stats are looking like, and then move on.
It was so unbelievably terrible. The Jets were just playing so bad at all levels, and so I turned it off, and I went back to week 4 and watched the Eagles and the Packers.
Yeah,
game.
and there's definitely more content to kind of go off on that game.
Yeah, that was a really good game. That was in prime time. I think that was Thursday Night Football?
Yeah, that was to start the week because I was very happy heading into that week.
I know. Packers had to eat a W. Loved it.
Yeah, that was a good one. They ended with that interception, but we'll get into that. But should we just get into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. So let's talk Eagles offense against both the Jets and the Packers. So the first thing that I noticed right away was that and this was during both games, was that they were running it up the middle with Jordan Howard and who's their new guy, Miles Sanders?
Yeah, Sanders. They got Sanders in there. Yep.
They were running it not necessarily outside. When they were running it outside, they could they were being stopped, but they could run it up the middle really, really well.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be, I could be wrong, but I think this is going to be another kind of Chicago Bears 2017 NFC Championship game, kind of an RPO style, out of the shotgun. In my opinion.
You said Chicago Bears, and I immediately went like,
yeah, right. Not again.
What are you saying?
No, well, I'm referring to just the RPO offense that they ran. Yeah. And so I think, and that's kind of what Philly did against the Packers there. And they did a lot of shotgun, and they were handing it off, and you just have more holes to run through. And Jordan Howard had a great game.
To be honest, I saw a little bit of RPO, but I don't ever think that they were true run-pass options.
Yeah.
I think it was more of like a play fake type of deal. I saw way more play actions than I did true RPOs.
That's fair, yeah.
And I think that if they stick to that game plan, that'll work. I think that when Philly used the RPO against us, and when honestly, when the Bears used the RPO against us in week 3, honestly, I think it was to suit Nick Foles and whatever backup quarterback is playing, because that's kind of the only crutch that they have to stand on. So I don't anticipate them using the RPO like they did to us in the NFC Championship game. I think Carson is more of a true pocket passer, and they'll try to play to his strength there.
And that's fair. I will go with you on that. That I think with Wentz in there, they don't run as much RPO. That's not his strong suit. But I think what history tells you is you can beat the Vikings running the RPO. And I'm tempted to think the way Doug Peterson likes to mix things up, and he's a great coach. He's a great offensive-minded coach.
He's a fantastic offensive-minded coach. But I think he has a specific scheme. I don't necessarily think... I think he is pliable when his situation dictates, and when I say a situation, I mean his personnel situation. I think that if their RPO is successful with Carson Wentz, that they would run it more against other teams, but they're not, because they didn't just run the RPO against us. They ran the RPO against all the other teams that they had to use Nick Foles in. Mm-hmm. We knew we were facing the RPO.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm going to stand with what I'm saying. I think we're going to see. Okay. It's not going to be the whole game.
No, I agree.
And maybe not necessarily RPO the whole game, but I think we're going to see a lot of shotgun.
All right. So there you have it. Pat thinks that we're going to be faced with a lot of RPO. Sam thinks that we're going to see more of their traditional scheme. But so I kind of want to dive into their scheme a little bit because it is flawed. So I could see how they might shift to the RPO maybe at halftime or something like that. So their pass protection is not stellar. Even against the Jets, it was kind of breaking down, and Carson had to try to escape the pocket and do something on the fly. And I think that's why they see a lot of play actions, very similar to the Vikings actually. Where we can't really protect Kirk Cousins, and so we have to do a lot of play action to try to get the play, to try to buy Kirk some time. So I think they do the same thing
And the Eagles, on top of the play action quickly, they've got some speedy wide receivers, so they can afford to do the play action and have players downfield. They got Aguilar and Deshaun Jackson.
They have speedy wide receivers, and but I will say that is all they have. Their wide receivers are very, very, very fast, but I don't think that they're as technically sound as like a Diggs or a Thielen.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that they can escape good coverage. I think that they can run past coverage.
Right, exactly.
But if there's some good coverage on them, I don't think that they can put a move on a defender to shake that coverage.
I would agree
off.
with that. Right, yeah. And they're just going to try and beat you with speed because
Exactly.
that's Jackson's. That's been his forte, his whole career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's Aguilar. That's been Aguilar's play. Is just trying to run past the.
Except Aguilar can't catch the ball. There's a really funny on the internet of like
a man just started throwing babies out the window. We was catching them, unlike Aguilar.
That dude, he's like, we've been catching babies, unlike Aguilar.
Just tosses him under the bus. But so if he could drop a couple, that'd be great.
So yeah, so I think they run the ball very well when they're running it up the middle. They can pass the ball efficiently. There was this one pass against the Jets, Pat. It was hilarious. So I think it was a throw out to their running back. I forget which running back it was, but the Jets had a defensive lineman. I think it was like a defensive tackle in coverage, and I was like, "You have got to be kidding me."
Right.
It was the stupidest thing.
Busted coverage?
Or
was it designed?
It was designed like I think it was some weird sort of man scheme that the Jets were trying to put on him.
Maybe they were supposed to go out in the flat and it.
Yeah, I have no idea. It might have just been like he might have just been like on a contained or zone type something.
Right. Yep.
And the ball he just swung it out and the dude just ran right past it. It was pretty funny. But yeah, so the thing that they have going for them that the Vikings don't, we kind of talked about how their pass protection is sort of similar to the Vikings in that it breaks down. The one thing that they have going for them is Carson Wentz is a large, strong human being. He does not go down easily. There were multiple times the Packers were able to penetrate their offensive line and get hands on Carson Wentz, and they were tugging him down, and he was like stumbling, but he was able to get back up and throw the ball
kind of like
downfield.
Not to the extreme of Big Ben, but like that big bodied where he's just tough to take down.
Yeah, he is.
And he can kind of shed a tackle and get out of the way.
I love Danielle Hunter. I love Everson Griffin, and they are fantastic at those one-handed sacks.
Yeah, they're going to need to really grab hold.
They're going to need two hands against Carson
And
Wentz.
On that note, I don't know if you saw in the Jets game there, Carson Wentz did he ducked under him, the defender went straight over his head, and then he completed for like a 30-yard catch,
Yeah.
So that's what he can do. And that's one thing that I think we missed from Case, is Case always had that ability he was just elusive.
Yeah.
And that's what Kirk Cousins doesn't have.
Absolutely. Yeah, so going back to the Packers game, just the stat line, is the thing that I thought was interesting, Carson was 16 for 27, which is not, what is that per completion percentage? It's not great. It's just over 50%. And I think that has a lot to do when you watch the film. It has a lot to do with the way his offensive lineman played. But he was efficient. He threw for 160 yards, which isn't great, but on 16 completions, that's what you get. But he threw for 3 touchdowns.
Right.
And so they were very efficient with what they were doing. The other thing that I thought was interesting about his passing was it was fairly evenly distributed. I mean, Zach Ertz got the most receptions. He had 7 receptions on 8 targets, but Alshon Jeffrey had 9 targets. Jordan Howard had 4 targets, which as a running back, that's great. And so they were spreading the ball out to just about everyone.
And with Howard, I like what they do is they pretty much on every play have him go out on a swing pass as a fifth option. You know, and against the Packer game there, they lobbed it to him, and he just kind of hobbled his way into the end zone.
It's more than a check down, but it's serving that purpose, but it's almost more effective than what a normal.
And then
check down would be.
when you kind of send him out on a swing there, it gets rid of the linebacker, and you have just a little more room to deal with, or scramble up the middle. It creates there's a purpose behind it.
Exactly, and when you have both Howard and Sanders on that roster, they can both catch the ball, they can both run the ball efficiently. What really won them that game was their running efficiency.
Yeah.
They had 33 rushing attempts for 176 yards, which doesn't sound great, but those 33 rushing attempts means that they didn't give up on the run, and they had to keep the Packers on their toes, and they didn't really know what they were doing, and they were able to evenly distribute the ball. So Jordan Howard had 15 carries, Miles Sanders had 11, and Carson Wentz had to take it 6 times himself. They didn't get Sproles into the game. He only had 1 carry, but I think with Howard and Sanders being able to split the load, that's going to just keep their legs fresh.
Right, yeah. And on that note, Sproles is out against us too. Not that really makes a difference.
Right. They still have Howard.
He's
and
an older
Sanders.
fella, but yeah. So, but I think Sproles is always a factor. You can't count him on a little screen pass.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I've always said it. I'm a huge fan of Jordan Howard, and I was honestly shocked when Chicago let him go or they traded him.
Yeah,
because he's just reliable. He's
just
bulky and.
I agree he's reliable and he's great. I just don't think he fit Matt Nagy's scheme. I think Tariq Cohen much better fits Matt Nagy's scheme of I can use you wide. I can, have you in the backfield. I can, run a misdirection with you.
I think you still need to kind of have a little bruiser like that.
I agree.
And in my opinion, I think they're missing Howard.
I agree.
That's just my opinion.
100%.
Howard is just a consistent back. And I think with Chicago, he rushed 3 straight years. He had over 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
That's consistency.
What did the Bears get for him? Or did they just let him walk?
No, they traded him for, I think, a pick or something like that. Yeah, the Eagles have been itching for a running back for a couple years now.
Well, yeah, and I think they
were mad when we drafted Cook that year.
I know. I'm so happy we drafted Cook.
He slipped, yeah.
So keys to success for the Vikings defense against the Eagles, I think number one is exploit the fact that their offensive line doesn't do well in pass protection. We're gonna have to get after the quarterback, and I think our front four. Even our front seven, if we decide to blitz, I think that they're very capable of doing that.
Yeah,
that's gonna be number one. The second one is our this is gonna be a little bit more difficult, but with how speedy their wide receivers are, like I said before, they have a hard time escaping good coverage with putting a technical move on somebody. So as long as Xavier Rhodes, Trey Waynes, Mike Hughes, as long as they can stay tight on their coverage, I think that we'll be able to be successful.
I'm gonna say Trey Waynes has his best game this year.
Really?
Yeah, and for the sole fact of what we kind of talked about is that their speedy receivers don't make many moves. It's simply who can run faster. And if there's anything I can say about Trey Waynes is he's quick and he can keep up with you.
Yes.
So
that's the other thing. So the Eagles, what I was able to see was they were kind of exploiting the holes in zone defense. I think that we're going to see a lot more man coverage.
More man, yeah.
And I think you're right. I think that plays more to Trey Waynes' strength.
For sure, yeah. And then something that I noticed too, and the commentator said it in the Jets game at the start of the game, and that was before the week started. So they were dead last in pass defense. So they were the worst. Yeah. Yep. And now that the week kind of finished out, they're not dead last anymore. But what I'm getting at is that's where we got to exploit them. And Aaron Rodgers threw for 422 yards that game too. Jeez. So I'm saying, it's got to be well balanced to keep Cook involved too. But I'm going to say Cousins is going to be airing it out. I'm saying he's going to have a 300-yard game.
Well, that's the other thing is the Eagles and the Packers, they got into a shootout.
Basically,
and
yeah.
That worries me because can the Vikings keep up in a shootout?
Yeah. And that's why I think we're going to need to rely on the run game heavily like we do, just to kind of get the game, wear down the clock and wear down their defense and not have to use Cousins as much, but just set up the play action because that's his forte.
And I agree. I think that's exactly how you avoid a shootout is by being dominant on defense and being able to run the ball.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm itching for us to get Diggs involved. I want a 10-catch performance from Diggs.
I know. I just
so badly.
I hate the media and their narrative so much. I just want Diggs' performance to shut him down.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Right.
But yeah, I think that Diggs and Thielen both have the opportunity to have a pretty good day here. So let's get into the Eagles' defense. I want to before we get into their secondary, I want to talk about their front seven because they are a very, very talented front seven. Neither the Packers nor the Jets could run the ball up the middle. They did have some success getting to the outside, but they were stout up the middle, and they were penetrating the line at every chance they got. A lot of times they were stopping these runs before they got to the line of scrimmage.
Fletcher Cox.
Oh my gosh.
One word. One name.
He is what single-handedly destroyed us.
Yeah.
In the NFC Championship game in 2017.
Right. Yeah. He had his way with us.
It was Yeah. Their front seven, they are phenomenal. And to go with that, they're also phenomenal at pass rushing.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean the Packers don't have a bad offensive line. I hate to say it. Their offensive line is pretty dang good, but the Eagles were still able to penetrate, and I think they even made Aaron Rodgers fumble at one point during the game.
Yeah, no, they did. Yeah, he hurt his hand, and there was some concern that maybe kind of like a Drew Brees type thing. But he obviously came back. But yeah, they can get to the quarterback. That's the main point.
And that worries me because the Vikings' offensive line is they're fantastic in the run game, so I think that they might be able to open up some holes there. Well, but our pass protection is gonna worry me.
There's that, and then honestly, every time Cousins gets hit, you have to hold your breath.
Right.
It could be something that doesn't look like he would lose the ball, but that ball's going to be on the ground.
Well, and then Sean Mannion's going to come in and he's going to Case Keenum our way to the NFC Championship game.
Oh, wouldn't that be it?
So yeah, the other thing that I really noticed about their front seven that really stood out to me was during the Packers game. Like I said, it was a shootout, and the game was hot and heavy right up until the last minutes of the game, and their front seven did not gas out. They did not get tired. They were able to play at 100% the whole game. So if you think that you're going to be able to wear down the Eagles front seven, you're wrong, because they are a very well-conditioned team.
And, you know, the linebackers, too, they ended the game on that interception to seal the deal against the Packers. And then the start of the Jets game, they had a pick six from 50-yard pick six, too. So, I mean, they're quick, and they can get to the ball if it's misthrown.
Yeah. Well, so that's the other thing I want to talk about their defense is their secondary has phenomenal coverage. You just talked about two interceptions.
Guess who we're seeing again? Andrew Sandejo. And that's a quick thing I wanted to talk about. I think Zimmer is going to exploit Sandejo.
You think so?
Oh my gosh!
Because he knows his weakness.
I think Zimmer's got a whole book on this guy. Sandejo sucks. I'm sorry, he sucks. Right. He has zero football IQ. Zero.
The one thing he will do to you is he'll give your entire team a concussion.
Dude, yeah, that's all he does. He plays the sport to just hit people.
Yeah.
And he has literally no football IQ.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, I think you're going to see a lot of. I think we might have some deep connections.
Play action towards Sandejo's side of the ball.
Exactly. And I think you're going to see a lot of Sandejo turning his head. Oh, whoop, wrong way.
The problem is if you send, you know, your Thielen or your Diggs out that way, and they beat their corner, and all they have left is Sandejo for protection, and Zimmer knows he can exploit that. But what's Sandejo going to do when he leaves the ground and it goes helmet first right at Diggs' head? Like, come on. That's going to... I just hope he doesn't play that. And I don't think he does that on purpose. I don't think it's on purpose. He doesn't try to injure people, but just his style of play does that.
It's like, the way I can put it is, he seems like an innocent child is the way it is. You know, and he felt really bad when he decked his teammate against the Packers game, which was an unfortunate timing because there was like a minute left, and it just kind of really killed the game.
But the really cool thing I liked about that was the replacement came in, and he didn't get the interception, but he caused the interception. He batted the ball up into the air.
Right, exactly.
And I was like, good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
So their secondary is I think is really good, but I do believe that they are beatable with an accurate ball. If Kirk Cousins can put the ball exactly right in that tight window where it needs to be, I think that if you can get a step on these guys, that's doable.
And we know Cousins can do it. That's the thing. We know he can do it. And
come on, Kirk.
You know what I hate is that he says that he plays better when he's angry. It's like, we know that, but like you can't fake anger,
right?
You know, so like find a way to step up your game,
right?
You know,
right. So yeah, I think just like their offense plays, I think that their defense plays similarly in that their man coverage is incredible, and they can stick with the wide receiver. I did see a lot of holes in their zone coverage that both the Packers and quite frankly the Jets with their third string running back, they were exploiting those holes pretty well. And it wasn't necessarily on the deep balls, it was on the 6 to 11 yard passes where we're just trying to move the sticks.
Yeah.
But there's some exploitable holes in their zone defense. So I think Kubiak and Stefanski are going to have to be able to recognize that and exploit it.
If we can get the run game going, a little 1-2 punch with Madison and Cook, I think this game could be ours for sure, because it just sets up so much.
Right.
You know, we don't need to get into that. It's obvious.
No,
but
I completely agree.
If the run game gets stopped, that's when I start to kind of worry a little bit.
And to that point, I think that if we start to get into a little bit of trouble, even if we're not even trouble on the scoreboard, but if they're starting to get some momentum and licking their chops, I can already feel their front seven just Schwartz just sending everybody. And I think in that exact moment is when we need to do some awesome like screen to
exactly.
Cook. You know, get all of our offensive linemen out in front of them.
Yep.
And just, you know, Cook just
25 yard pickup.
25, 30, 40, 50 yards.
Right.
I think that we need I think that if they can place the screen plays right at the right time, I think that the Eagles will fall for it flat on their face. And I really hope that we see something like that on Sunday.
Definitely. Yeah, and just to bring up last year, we played them in Philly, and that was a 23-21 game that we pulled out. We eked out a win there.
It was very close.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it during score predictions, but this one is going to be a very close game.
I think it's going to be similar. Exactly.
All right, so we talked Eagles defense. We kind of talked how the Vikings can succeed against the Eagles defense. I do want to talk about one other thing, and I don't think we talk about this enough on the podcast, is special teams.
Yeah.
They were phenomenal in special teams as well. And I know it sounds like I'm trying to prop the Eagles up, but they are just a dang good football team.
Well, Jake Elliott's a phenomenal kicker.
Jake Elliott's phenomenal.
He's very reliable.
Very reliable.
From 55 plus.
But even beyond that, when they were returning kicks and punts, they were getting some huge chunks returned.
And I don't have it on me. Is Jackson returning those?
No,
they got a different guy.
They got some. I think they have some
like a
some
rookie
speedy white guy.
Yeah. Oh, do they? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I just we're gonna have to play well in all three phases if we're gonna win this game.
Right.
Like I kind of said before at the beginning of the podcast, the Eagles are a very, very good football team, and just like we were going to be a test for the Giants to see if they're able to compete kind of with the middle of the pack teams, the Eagles are going to be a test for us to see if we can be in the conversation with the top teams in the league, because quite frankly we were there at the beginning of the season and we're not there with the way we have been playing. So
exactly.
This is going to be the game that's going to get us back into the conversation for top teams in the league and Super Bowl contenders,
for sure,
if we can pull out a win.
Yeah. And honestly, minus the Jets game, the Eagles, they have had really close games. Week 1 against the Redskins, it was 32-27, believe it or not. They pulled out a win. The Falcons, it was 24-20. The Lions, it was 27-24, both losses. Packers was 34-27. So what I'm saying is there are flaws in their defense.
Right.
And we can totally capitalize on it.
Exactly. And they're coming off of 2 back-to-back wins.
Yeah, right.
And I think that they're playing with a lot of confidence.
Momentum too. Yep.
Right. So right now is going to be the time to exploit their confidence. And I don't want to call it a trap game, but I'm hoping that they're playing with the attitude that we can just kind of walk in here and get the job done, and we're going to be able to exploit
I
that.
just pray to God that we don't start off with the 3-and-out to start the game. That it just, for the Vikings, that first half is done if that's how it starts.
Yeah,
it just is. And then the second half, they're like, oh, well, we got to get going.
Our offense is very reliant on momentum.
It's insane. Yeah, it really is.
Our defense is a little bit more resilient to a lack of momentum. They can kind of create momentum themselves. But our offense is 100% reliant.
So I'm saying if we rush, first 2 plays of the game and we get like 2 yards out of it, and then we squander that third down pass, it's going to be an interesting start to the game, in my opinion. But
yeah. All right. So let's talk score predictions, and then after score predictions, I kind of want to plug another fun little thing that we want to start doing on the podcast.
Definitely.
So, all right. So score predictions. So Vegas has Vikings by 3 to win the game. And again, this game is in Minneapolis. And typically money lines they give 3 points to the home team. So if you're speaking purely from a talent wise on a neutral field, they have this game pretty dead even. So Pat, with that being said, what do you think is going to happen?
I've got 24-21 Vikings.
24-21 Vikings.
I've got a Dan Bailey within the last minute of the game field goal.
Really?
And then a defensive stop. That's this.
I love that.
I've got a close nail biter. Yeah, like where I'm nervous the whole game.
Yeah. So I agree. I think that the Vegas money line is going to be a good line. I think we're going to win by 3. I think it's going to be more 14-17 though. I think it's going to be more of a defensive grind.
Sure,
I think.
Sure.
I think that I'm not sure how well our offense is going to be able to exploit their defense, but I think our defense is going to do enough to make up the difference.
Yep.
So I think it'll be more of a gritty defensive game.
Yeah. Player, how about a prediction? Why don't you give me a player that what kind of stats you think?
Hold on, before I do that, I did want to jump back to week 1. I did have this game as a win, and Pat had this game as a loss.
Yeah.
So Pat is officially flip flopping on us.
To be honest, I think I'm gonna be flip flopping the whole year. But no, I've got a win right now. Looking at it.
Hey, if you don't have hope, what else do you have?
Yeah, exactly. So, but. Along with score predictions, let's see. Yeah. Do you have Cook going for 150 plus purpose yards?
I have Cook definitely going for at least 150 yards. I think he's going to be our workhorse again.
Yep.
I think that our surprise breakout player of the game is going to be Trey Waynes.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like he's going to put up this crazy stat line, get 3 interceptions or anything like that. I think it's going to be more he's going to be the guy we thought we drafted.
Yep.
Totally. I think he's going to step up to the challenge, and I think he's going to. I could probably see him on who do you think, Aguilar, or do you think he'll be on
Jackson or Aguilar
Jeffrey?
For sure?
Yeah.
No, I think Xavier's got Jeffries.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was gonna be my player of the game, and so I'll give it to you. So I'm gonna go with Stephon Diggs, and I'm gonna say he's got 10 receptions and 100 yards this game.
Nice.
I think he comes to life in this one.
I friggin' love it.
Yeah. So do you why don't you bring up the little bit that we got here?
So we wanted to shake up the monotony of the podcast. We're trying something a little bit of fun. If you guys hate it, feel free to say, guys, don't ever do that again. But we'll post this so everybody can kind of follow along with us. So it's just one of those, you have $15 to spend, pick one quarterback, one running back, 2 wide receivers, and 1 tight end. And they only give you like 5 options of each. We won't go through it, but we'll post the grid. So I'm going to go through,
you go first. Yeah.
I'm going to go through what I have. So for my quarterback, I am going to be taking the dog, Dante Culpepper, and I'm going to spend $3 on Dante Culpepper.
Okay.
And I normally wouldn't do it, but I'll tell you why I took Dante Culpepper here in a second. Next column was running back. Dalvin Cook is a steal at $3. You have Adrian Peterson in the $5 spot.
That's kind of a joke.
And Dalvin Cook is down in the $3 spot.
Yep.
So I'm like, I'm going to bargain bin Dalvin Cook. So I spent $6. So this is why I picked Dante Culpepper. I don't think he's a very talented quarterback, but he can huck the ball 80 yards in the air. I'm spending $5 to get me Randy Moss because he is going to be able...
Sam, so I just want to say we have the same first 3. So I'm going to quick make a couple adjustments, and we'll see if I need to go any further.
This is why we started a podcast together.
And this is why, we didn't talk about it beforehand, but go ahead.
We did not talk about this beforehand because we wanted everything to be a natural reaction.
Okay, go ahead.
This is kind of funny. So I'm spending $5 to get my man Randy Moss because Dante Culpepper is going to throw the ball 80 yards, and no matter where he puts it, Randy Moss is going to be able to bring it down. I skipped the next wide receiver column because I started to realize that I've spent $11 and I'm running out of money. I'm looking at the tight ends and I'm thinking, where can I bargain bin this?
Wait. Did you only do one wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm skipping the next wide receiver column just because I want to see how much money I have left over.
It says you have to pick 2.
I know. There's 2 wide receiver columns.
Oh, I'm following now. Okay.
Yep. So I'm skipping the next wide receiver column, going to the tight ends because I need a bargain hunt. And Visante Shanko is down there for $1.
Yeah, he was great in 09.
Yeah, he was great.
Favre loved him.
Yeah, he was fantastic. So I'll take him for $1.
Okay.
So that leaves me $3. And so I'm going to the next to the wide receiver column. I have basically I can get Anthony Carter, I can get Sidney Rice, or I can get Greg Jennings. And part of me says, Sam, just spend the $15 to get Anthony Carter. But I wasn't a conscious human being when he was playing. I think I was alive, but I wasn't really tracking that. And I haven't really seen too many of his highlight videos. I loved Sidney Rice when I was tucking him the ball.
09, that was just such a fun year.
So I think I'm going to go Sidney Rice, and that gives me another $1. Do I want to drop Culpepper and pick up Fran Tarkenton? Maybe not. Maybe I'll just pocket that $1.
I think that's a good lineup there.
I think I'm gonna. So there it is. I got Culpepper, Cook, Moss, Sidney Rice, and Visante Shanko.
All right. I love it. It's Pat's turn. So, like I said, I changed things up a little bit. So Sam and I had.
Hold on. You stopped me after my first 3 picks. Were our last 2 going to be the same?
No, they weren't. Okay. Yeah. But so initially I had Culpepper, Cook, and Moss. But so I decided to change it up. So instead, I'm going to go with Randall Cunningham. I can't believe he's only $2.
That's a steal.
Yeah, that's a steal. He's a shifty guy. He can get out of the pocket, and boy, could he huck it.
Yeah.
So I changed it up. I went with Cunningham. My next pick was Cook. I had to pick Cook. So that's $3. Yeah,
$3 for the
Cook.
Best running back in the modern NFL.
That's got to be a typo.
I just said Dalvin Cook is the best running back in the modern NFL.
He is.
He is.
He's too elusive. He's the whole package.
Yeah.
So my next one was I had Randy Moss. I'm going to keep Moss because
he's Randy Moss.
Yeah, I'll never forget the one game against the Cowboys. It was Thanksgiving Day. He had 3 catches, 200 yards or like 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. that was his stat line. And then you see him after the game. He's eating that turkey. He's just gobbling it up. But
straight cash, homie.
So I had to go with Moss.
Yep.
My next one. I didn't go to the next column. I stayed in that column.
Okay.
And I went with my boy Percy Harvin. I loved Percy when he wasn't kind of a bit of a troublemaker,
right?
But I loved Harvin. I think he was such a deadly force on kick returns, and if he had the ball in his hands, he flew.
Electricity.
I can't think of someone who currently runs as fast as he did as a slot wide receiver.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He's definitely fantastic.
Yeah, and so because it freed up $1 that I picked Cunningham over Culpepper. I had Sensor originally, didn't know who the guy was. I wanted to use every $1. Picked him. Instead, I freed up $1. I've got Jimmy Kleinsizer
Yes!
coming back home.
Big Jimmy.
Big Jimmy. So my lineup there is Cunningham, Cook, Moss, Harvin, and then Big Jimmy. So,
all right. So there you have it.
There you have it.
All right. So join us next time on Dig Sideline Podcast. We'll be reviewing what is hopefully a Vikings win against the Eagles. And until then, we'll be crossing our fingers.
Love it. Thanks, guys, so much. Skol Vikings.
Skol.